So, who would you be if you were more free? Have any of you used breathwork in your regular practice or done a transformational breathwork? Anybody? Yeah? Okay, several of you. Now, have you ever done 9D breathwork? Right. So this is a very, very different modality from breathwork itself, and I'll teach you all about that. But I want to talk about what we've got going on in the United States and really globally across the world is we have a severe mental health crisis. A mental health crisis so bad that 7 out of 10 Americans struggle with mental health, and there are now over 360 mental health diagnoses when we only had about 70 in the 1970s. And with all the therapies, meds, all of the things that are offered, it's actually getting worse, which is hard to explain because you would think that with all of the data and information that we have, that we would be able to really harness in on what's going on with the mental health crisis. And a poll shows in America itself that Americans are the most unhappiest that they've ever been since World War II, probably, right? We've had some astonishing things happen in this world. We have a global crisis of mental health, and we really started seeing the layers of that during COVID. And I think that this is a time to really, really capture what we're not being told. These are two amazing books that I have recently read myself after a masterclass with our founder, Brian Kelly. I had read Sedated, How Modern Capitalism Created Our Mental Health Crisis, which is a phenomenal book. As you might know, I am not very pro pills. I am all about the Earth's healing medicines, and I am very pro plant medicines. And I work with a lot of people who are looking to get off prescription drugs. And the reason for that is that we know that there are alternatives. We know that there are other therapies that exist that can absolutely do a way better job and not dysregulate the body, right? Not poison the liver, not dysregulate the nervous system. So I really highly recommend Sedated. And then I have just gotten about halfway through The Myth of Normal, Trauma, Illness, and Healing in a Toxic Culture. If you didn't know already, we live in a toxic culture, especially with social media. And this is a wonderful, wonderful book. And I really, really highly encourage you to read it if you are very interested in trauma healing, especially. And then this is a book that I have read, and it's a phenomenal, phenomenal book about why kids are not growing up. Now it says that, but it's really not about that. Bad therapy exists, if you didn't know. And not all therapists should really be therapists. I've had some terrible therapists through the years, and some of them I'm not sure how they're even able to practice. But I want to talk about how therapy doesn't work for everybody. And therapy can hijack our normal processes of resilience, interrupting our psyche's ability to heal itself in its own way and in its own time. So many times we see in therapies that we are just forcing people to be frozen in time with their trauma. And so therapy, we're going back to that moment. We're going back to that moment. We're going back, and we're not actually teaching people techniques of mindfulness, therapeutic advantages with breath work and other types of modalities. And so these are great books. I would really recommend you start learning a little bit more. There's wonderful books on holotropic breath work and the science of breath work. I have those all in my Amazon cart list. So if you go to my website, marliesledbetter.com, you can find all of the books on healing medicines, as well as elevating your business and elevating your life on my Amazon list. And these are all books that I've read and I love, and many of them I actually teach on. So let's talk about breath. What is the first thing that happens when you are born? You take a breath, right? And what is the last thing that you do when you leave this earth? You exhale, right? And how many of you were taught in school how to regulate your nervous system with your breath? Okay, we've got one person who was taught this. Did you go to a Montessori school? Private school. That makes sense. And so most people have never learned how to actually regulate your breath. And so what I want you to do is just right now, take a nice deep breath in and a nice deep breath out. And a nice deep breath in. And a nice deep breath out. If you have breathed deeply into your diaphragm, you probably felt restored just from those 2 breaths. And what's interesting is that science has actually studied breath work. So MAPS, if you haven't heard of it, is the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies. This is the company and the community that looks at LSD, MDMA, ayahuasca, psilocybin, and we've actually had a lot of studies going on since the 1960s. So if you didn't know this, we have already seen clinical data, especially on mushrooms, and Johns Hopkins did a huge clinical trial and has tons of emerging data, lots of different documentaries on different things. How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan became a very, very popular Netflix series. You can watch that, and that is on the effects of psychedelics in a clinical setting, in a therapeutic setting. Very, very interesting information. I've actually been trained by MAPS, and there are a lot of people who have the ability to study these things clinically, but these studies, these substances have been taboo for a really long time. How many of you guys have been taught that psychedelics are bad? Right? Me too. Honestly, my parent, of all the drugs that existed, marijuana was actually the one that everyone was so scared about. But until recently, breath work was also kind of seemed taboo, right? Especially in Western culture, in the Christian community where I belong in. I'm a Christian, I work in ministry, and I can tell you on a regular basis, I tell people about breath work and they're just not comfortable with it, right? They're not sure what they're going to get involved in. They're not sure if it's against the religion of some sort. And so breath work has been pretty taboo. It's been held by this new age community for a really long time, and we are breaking through that. And it's never necessarily had a bad connotation, but actively we are seeing things change. And with that was in 1989, MAP started a study of over 11,000, 11,000, you guys, over 12 years in breath work, in what we would call holotropic or somatic or circular breathing therapy. And what happened at the end of this study was a conclusion that this was likely one of the most effective ways to battle things around mental health, addiction, trauma, and much more without the implications that some of these medicines may have had. And when we talk about medicine, psychedelic medicines, right? Incredible. And on top of that, of all these people, and some of them that have actually used LSD, DMT, psilocybin, MDMA, and ayahuasca, have said that the effects are very similar to plant medicine, but they've also said that they feel this is safer. It takes less time. They feel fully in control of the experience, and it's legal. It's legal to breathe anywhere you are. You've got lungs inside of you that you get to breathe in and out of at any time. And once you learn breathing patterns and how to set up your own breathwork experiences, you can take hold of this completely free. Now, 9D is a very, very special type of breathwork. But with these modalities, with breathwork 9D specifically, I have been able to fully break through with my clients. And hundreds I've seen myself after a relatively short period of time, and usually less than, I would say, even 6 sessions. My clients are seeing such extraordinary experiences, changes in their behavior, self-sabotage, programming, trauma. They are being set free. And like I said before, what if you could be more free? What if you could feel no burdens of chains holding you down? What if that, took 6 hours or 10 hours? Would you be willing to do that? I think so. Now, another thing that I want to tell you, if you haven't already been mind blown already, is that during these experiences, one of the resonating themes that showed up in almost all of the participants was the sense of freedom on a very spiritual level. This, my friends, is a spiritual body that we live in. Our mind, body, and soul have got to work together. The mind is not separate from the body is not separate from the mind, and the spirit is not separated from either of these things. And so people have even felt this truly spiritual connection, and some of them have never felt this connection before. Some of them have no resonating feeling to source, divinity, God of any type. And they're tapping into this and they're feeling this. 82%. And so that was so overwhelmingly present that most of the participants feel this way. We do see that those are medicated, and I'm speaking on my own behalf. A lot of my clients that are medicated, that are on SSRIs, benzos, opiates, antipsychotics, do have a harder time tapping into this. So I would say roughly from my own experience with my clients that probably roughly that other percentage are the people that have been medicated. But what's great about this is that those people that have been medicated would not have the opportunity to do some of these other plant medicine therapies because of the interactions. And honestly, there are a lot of interactions with prescription drugs that do not allow you to fully feel the feelings that you need to break through trauma, to break through in therapy. So many times of us, we have felt like, well, we just have to numb. I don't want to feel so down. But guess what? You're also blocking the opportunity to feel joy and gratitude and love at a very visceral way. So you've got these really, really immense highs of life and these, temporary lows. And I promise you, everything is temporary in life, by the way. But when you're not feeling these and you're just kind of sitting in the middle somewhere, and usually it's below middle, you have a really hard time tapping into those emotions. And so I have been, as a specialized practitioner, helping these people reflect on that and choose to work with their doctor to downgrade medications, maybe even get off of medications so that they can break through. It's sometimes really scary at first, but you can do it effectively with certain types of things. You can supplement with CBD and CBDA, sometimes microdosing, different things that do the same job as the medications that you're taking, and that will help you transform faster. So how many people here took psychology or, social studies and learned Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? We need shelter, food, water, a feeling of safety, and we need human connection. But beyond that, Harone in 1977 wrote a book on catharsis in human development. It was revised later in 1998 on basic human needs. Number one, the need to be loved or to love. I mean, just resonate with that for a second. Every human being needs to love or to be loved. You might not feel the same because you are in a temporary place, but I promise you, you need to love and you need to be loved. Number two, understand. The need to understand and be understood. Now, this is resonating, I'm sure, with all of you. And so many people that have gone through trauma have never felt understood. They don't feel like anybody could possibly understand them. And I promise you, as someone who has gone through severe trauma and grief, I can sit there and understand where you've been, maybe not specifically to the event that you've gone through, but I can understand the feelings behind that. And it's so important for me and other people to be felt understood and to understand other people as well. And then the third thing that he talks about is self-direction, the need to be self-directing and freely engaged with the directions of a greater whole. I don't know how many times people have told me that when they find their why in life, the whole world opens up for them. Self-direction and being part of a greater whole community or a passion of some sort, that is so important to us, right? We find something that we really truly love and it doesn't feel like we're going to work every day. We jump out of bed because we know that this is the passion that we're supposed to fulfill. And then you become self-directed, right? And that is really important to people. People don't feel that they have a space in the world without self-direction. So I just wanted to go over those three things because that'll be something you got to keep in the back of your mind as we move through the rest of these slides. So another thing that was said is this quote, and this is so profound, and I've read it 100 times now. When human capacities are frustrated to a disabling degree, the result is acute psychosomatic tension, the mental component of which is grief, fear, or anger, corresponding respectively to the frustrated capacities for love, understanding, and self-direction. What that means is that we are not allowed to process what is happening to us. And so then it becomes physical tension, mental tension, and energetic tension. And so what is more crazy than anything is that we have become so used to feeling and living this way that we don't even notice. We have back pain. Surely that's just because we're getting old. We have hip pains. Maybe I just haven't worked out enough. I have knee pains. I have this, I have that, right? What if your physical tension was due to the mental tension drawn from energetic tension? Or all of them individually have become part of your disease or disorder. Have you ever thought of that way? Think about it. Think about the burden that you carry and the weight on your shoulders. Maybe that's why you have headaches. Maybe that's why your shoulders hurt and you have neck pain. Maybe you've never felt truly supported and your hips hurt because you're always having to take care of things yourself, right? Always we can, always typically we can take something that is physically felt and tie it to an emotional psychosomatic trigger. And here's the thing, our needs are not being met. So we need to do things differently. Now, how do these things show up as symptoms of tension? Now, bet you anything you can check off a few of these. Irritability, frustration over minor inconveniences. This is blowing up over nothing. I used to do this all the time. Headaches. I would get tension headaches constantly. I was also dehydrated. Insomnia. I could not sleep worth a lick. Digestive issues. Don't even get me started on that. Passive aggressive behavior or aggressive behavior. Sexual dysfunction. Does that register with anybody or your partner? And anxiety and depression. Symptoms of tension. And what we cannot deny is obviously what these tensions are doing to our body. Our needs are not being met and we're feeling them physically. But again, we have been so used to living this way that we don't even notice. And we see them in specific issues. And you ever thought like, I just need more supplements. I just need this or that, or maybe something's attacking me. But maybe you need psychosomatic release, somatic breath work, able to tap into something that you honestly can't even find yourself sometimes, right? How many times have you thought of something and felt a trigger or pain in some place of your body and wondered, what is that about? Well, it is a psychosomatic connection. That is truly what it is. Now, how do you release physical, mental, and energetic tension? Well, it is through the process of catharsis. And catharsis is releasing strong and suppressed emotions and what follows a sense of relief. So I know that when I sing and I do performances, I feel cathartic. I feel free. I feel wonderful, accomplished. Usually it's more enjoyable for me than even the crowd that I'm singing for or the private event or whatever. So cathartic. I usually go off with the rest of my day. I have so much energy. I can't sleep because I'm so excited. It's wonderful, right? Or you journal for a couple hours, go on a bike ride. All of these types of things, you are releasing emotions through exercise, through certain things, and you feel catharsis. But true catharsis can be quite an extraordinary experience on a level that you didn't even know existed. And I want to show you what some of these things are. During the breath work, especially in somatic breath work, we have this release of catharsis, but it is pretty powerful to witness. And when you're going through it, this is what you can see. Sweating and shaking. Lots of people sweat and shake. And this is a very big indicator of fear, the emotion of fear. Crying and sobbing. I've definitely cried and sobbed in every single journey I've ever taken with 9D. This is shame and grief. I have a lot of grief, honestly, and a lot of shame that I didn't process before going through this, that I really thought that I did. But the physical release of it was what I was looking for. Hysterical laughing. There have been a couple of times, I think Brian, our creator, actually witnessed this for me during the awakening, where I just started laughing because I was like, this is so ridiculous that it was guilt. I felt so guilty about going into certain things in my life. And I was just laughing at myself like, wow, this is so ridiculous. This is so silly. Yawning is a very big indicator of fatigue. Now, I also tell people you might not be fatigued, but you've been breathing quite heavily. And sometimes your body just needs a little bit extra serotonin. And so the yawning aspect can sometimes be that, but it is fatigue. And a lot of people are heavily fatigued on a daily basis. How many people get 10 hours of sleep like we're supposed to? No one. No one's getting 10 hours of sleep. I do sometimes. And I feel great when I do. But most of us are heavily caffeinated. shoving everything down, fatigued individuals, and screaming and thrashing. This is the one that we don't see as often in 9D, but I can tell you what, if I have a big group of people, there's always one or maybe two. And when I say thrashing, no one's hitting other people. But some people do feel that they need to scream and thrash. And we usually, in some of our breath works, there is a scream. There are several screams in some of the breath works. And screaming is so cathartic. Have you ever been so upset that you've just screamed and then you're like, well, I feel better now. I've yelled at everyone, but I feel better now, right? So what if you could actually release these things on a regular basis through breath work? And don't let this intimidate you. By the way, she was going through a beautiful experience, and Brian is right there holding space for her. And he is such a wonderful person. And I know my clients have personally experienced this, but then they go on and they have less tension in their body. They feel physically free, mentally free, and they have this immense bodily discharge that happens, sometimes physical discharge too. And that is all that stored tension and trauma coming to the surface. Some of it doesn't come all the way out. And that's why multiple sessions and integration, and I'll talk about that, is so important. We are not living in a mental health crisis, actually. We are living in a constipation crisis. Think about it. All of those stuck emotions, all of those times that we've been told to hold back, all of those things. Big girls don't cry, big boys don't cry. Don't show your emotions. Don't scream out in anger. Don't show. And then we don't process it. And then we hold on to it. And then it becomes disease. That is what's actually happening. And we have stored all in our body, and it just gets worse and worse. Now look at this guy, looks a little bit unhinged, right? And sometimes we have to validate emotions like this. I know that there are moments where I just want to scream my head off. What if we could actually do that without being judged? Some of us have been through terrible things. We have witnessed terrible things. We have done terrible things. And whatever it is, we have got to let it go. And one of the many ways we do that in our sessions is by screaming, sighing, singing, and many other ways to clear things out. So, is anyone ready to scream? We will not be screaming in this journey today, but I really recommend you having a great scream session at your house, even if you have to stick a pillow over your head or something like that. But you'll see in the journeys, whether you book with me virtually or in private or come to one of my group sessions, that you will love screaming. All right, so let's get to actual breathing. I know most of you guys are here to learn about breathing. So how is breath work different than box breathing in your car or taking a few deep breaths, right? Through circular breathing and the dimensions of our programs, we are actually able to access things so deeply stored in our bodies that even trauma starts being transformed as well. So how do we do that? Well, let's do a really quick exercise on 360 breathing in a circular fashion. So first of all, I want to make sure that you guys are breathing properly. So let's talk about, we're going to come back to this. If you didn't know, you have a diaphragm right here. Let me show you right here. So here's my lungs. They come down my rib cage. My lungs basically fit here, right? And I have this beautiful diaphragm that helps me with breathing. How many people breathe up here, right? Or breathe up here? There's no lungs up here, you guys. There's no lungs. They start here. They're right under the collarbone, right? So don't breathe up here. Breathe. You can deeply breathe in your chest, but really put your hand on your diaphragm. So a 360 breathing technique is a profound method of breathing that entails harnessing your breath to foster expansion in both your rib cage and your abdomen. So it's not just all right here. This is actually coming out too. Watch. You see that? So this is coming out also, but I'm allowing for the sides to be expanded. And when you allow for that circular breath to happen, you'll feel it when you're laying down into where you're laying. So you'll feel it into your back, into your sides, into the front, and into your chest, right? When we do some double breaths and things like that, it'll rise up into the chest as well. But you want to focus most of your breathing down into where the most of the mass of your lungs are. If you look at this diagram, where the diaphragm is sitting and those bottom parts of your lungs, you want to breathe nice and just fill those whole lungs all the way up. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and put your hands just like this lady here. Go ahead and put them here. And I want you to go ahead and take a deep breath in. Do you see how those lungs are expanding deep and then releasing? So what's very interesting is that in a circular breath, there will be no pauses. So some of our breaths will be pushing out maybe a count of in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8, right? We do have different types of structures of breath, but in circular breathing, you're not stopping the breath. It's in and out, and in and out. No stopping point, right? And on the exhale, you're not pushing out the air, you're just letting it go, just letting it fall out of you. Like just allowing that breath to just fall right out of you. So let's do a couple of different ones. So I want you to do one cycle. So we're going to do 5 breaths on each cycle. So 5 in and out of the nose, 5 in through the nose and out of the mouth, and 5 in and out of the mouth. So I want you to go ahead and breathe with me. So everyone get ready, get relaxed, roll your shoulders, get all loose, loosey-goosey, right? Ooh, I got some cracked bones. All right, so we're ready to breathe. So I want you to take one hand on the chest and one hand on the diaphragm, right here, right underneath the rib cage. For some of you guys, it's under your bra strap. All right, and we're gonna go ahead and take a nice deep breath in through the nose. In 3, 2, 1, breath in. And breathe out through the nose. And breathe in and out. And breathe in and breathe out. And breathe in and breathe out. Was that 5? I don't know. I wasn't counting. All right, so let's do in through the nose and out through the mouth. What I like to do through the mouth is vibrate the vocal cords. So as a singer, catharsis happens through my throat. That is, I mean, I'm having a physical release while singing, but also from a sigh. Ha. Audible. I want you to audibly allow the breath to come out. Okay, so ready? 3, 2, 1. Big breath in. And sigh. Ha. And big breath in. And sigh. Ha. Big breath in. And sigh. Ha. Big breath in. And sigh. Ha. And big breath in. And sigh. Ha. Beautiful. All right, so that was an in through the nose, out through the mouth, pretty circular. You usually have a little bit more exhale than an inhale, but there is a time where you can get into a full pattern where you're breathing equally in and out. You just follow your body, you find your rhythm. All right, let's do the last one, which is in through the mouth and out through the mouth. Now, during breath work, in the beginnings, your mouth gets really dry, but don't worry, you won't notice it after about 5-10 minutes. Your mouth starts watering, you get a hit of dopamine, your body feels really good, you're like, let's go, let's go. And you won't ever get fully out of your mind, by the way. Like, that's kind of the beauty of it. We want to go deep, deep, deep in your mind. We want to see where that monkey mind is actually going, because by the time we're halfway through, your brain is going to slow down. We're going to talk about that next. So go ahead. We're going to do 5 in through the mouth and out through the mouth. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and breathe 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 out. You should have felt that. Getting tingles a little bit? Yeah? 3 of you, tingles. In just 5 breaths of circular breathing in through the mouth and out through the mouth, you're activating. You're already activating. Now, you should have felt that all right here, right? These nice, deep breaths. As you can see, this part of me isn't really moving. My chest will sometimes move the deeper I get my breaths, especially if we're doing a double breath where we allow the chest to rise. So, right? So I'm breathing here first and then breathing here. And when you come and do a session or we do a virtual session, I'll show you a double breath, and that is incredible. So we will be in this position when we take our journey. So if you didn't read the prep document that I emailed, you will be laying down. We are going to be doing 26 minutes and you will start tingling. And so I don't want you to fall out of your chair or something. If you're on a couch, you can just lean back. I just want you to be in a comfortable position. I do not want your chin to be tucked. We want to keep that trachea nice and open. We want your chest to be nice and open. Women, if you're wearing a bra and it's too constricting, you might want to take it off. So I'll give you some time after this. And you just want it to be a nice, full, comfortable breath with no, no inclusion. So you don't want your hands to be like this. We want to just, hands on the chest and belly, hands on the belly, hands in receiving mode. This is receiving. Some people put their hands all over the place. And so we are allowing this diaphragm to take center stage. And as it contracts downward, generating intra-abdominal pressure, which in turn triggers expansion through the abdominal muscles and, fun fact, the pelvic floor. How many women here jump on a trampoline and pee themselves or rush to the bathroom? Well, that's your pelvic floor, and your pelvic floor actually gets strengthened by this depth of breath work. So if you didn't know that, talk to a pelvic floor specialist and also talk to me because we can work on some things. Okay, so let's talk about the lens of trauma. This visual kind of got me when I first saw it. By the way, these are all slides from Brian's TED Talk, and hopefully that'll be released pretty soon. We don't have to see through the distorted lenses of trauma anymore. And I'll get to what trauma really means because some of you guys are not going to resonate with this at first. And I want to talk to you about a woman who Brian shares this story. It's so incredible that she had initially lost hope and she was afraid to sleep with the lights off. She couldn't sleep through the night without feeling like any time her perpetrator could come back. And after breath work, she now saw the trauma, the locations, and the events with a different lens, as if love replaced it. An understanding of what happened to her wasn't who she was, and a sense of light encompassing around the entire experience that and many other instances in her life where she felt paralyzed by her trauma and her anxieties and her fear. And this is her. Her name is Sherry, and she is actually a 90 facilitator. She says here, I felt shame for so many years of what had happened to me, and now I proudly sign my name as someone who did the work and was set free. And I can't tell you how many people have gone through intense traumas in their life and have worked through this modality through several, sometimes even 1 or 2 sessions, I'm not even joking, have come to me and said, my life has changed. This was the most profound experience of my life, to see things with a different lens. Let's talk about trauma. So when we think about trauma, we usually go to war, mental, physical abuse, PTSD, natural disasters. This is what experts call big T trauma. How many people have had big T trauma? Everyone here has had big T trauma. All of us. How do I lower my hand here? Lower hand. Here we go. All right. I forgot I did that. But in reality, we actually do go through a ton of very small spectrum traumas that are known as little T traumas. And that's where most people live, right? And they build up and they build up and they build up, and they are then felt like big T traumas because it's really encompassing their whole life. I work with so many people that have complex issues around so many different trauma imprints, but I want you to see all those little t traumas and all of those things that our body is being felt, and how we feel, our thoughts, our emotions by some of these things. So let's talk about some of the big ones. Number one, rejection. How many people have felt rejected in their life? I think everyone at one point has felt rejected. This can show up as argumentative, feeling insecurity, fear of rejection, easily offended, anger issues, emotional dysregulation. I can tell you on this slide, before I started in my healing journey, I felt all of these. And I have been rejected time and time again. But really it came down to the root of feeling rejected just even in my own home. And not that my parents were even any way abusive, but I felt rejected because they had a lot of kids and I had a lot of needs and I was a big feeler. And so I became argumentative. I became easily offended and I became emotionally dysregulated. Shaming. Shaming is a really, really difficult one because we see this with a lot of people that have issues with addiction. This shows up as perfectionism, inferiority complex. How many people feel like they just can't be good enough? People pleasing, patterns of self-blame, control complex. That was me for a really, really long time. And patterns of avoidance. Some people are like, I'm just a procrastinator. But what if, because of shame, you have a pattern of avoidance? Maybe because you're such a control freak and you have to have perfectionism is because truly you lived with shame for most of your life, most of your upbringing. Abandonment. Now, this one is heavy. Abandonment can show up in so many different ways. You might feel abandoned right now in your marriage, in your lifestyle, in your home, in your work. And you might have truly been abandoned by your parents or your caretakers. So this shows up as trust issues, depression, severe attachment issues, codependency, feelings of loneliness, and difficulty regulating emotions. That's a heavy, heavy feeling to have. And then the last one is, well, two actually, absence of love or absence of presence, right? How many people had their mom and dad were there, right? They didn't have absence of presence, but they didn't have love. Or maybe they did have love, but their parents really weren't around very much. So this is where we see the love that I receive is never enough. I have low self-esteem. I suffer from anxiety or fear or worry. I'm always looking on the outside to be validated. That was me. I needed love and it wasn't there. And substance abuse. Absence of love, absence of presence. This one I feel like I have absolutely felt through my last marriage, through my upbringing. And it wasn't because I had bad parents. And it wasn't because I was in a traumatized childhood. It was because I wasn't getting love the way that I needed it. My parents weren't there for me or could hold space in the way that I needed it. But yours might be much deeper than that. Your parents might not have actually been there. They might have been addicted to drugs and literally just paid someone off or dropped you off somewhere. And I want you to know that you're being seen and we can hold space for you. We can be there so that you can safely and freely let go of these things. Trauma is such an incredible superpower. Trauma's superpower is its ability to pierce time. What happened in the past is living in the present and hijacking the future. Think about that. The reason that you feel the way that you do about the things that you've gone through is that it's literally making you feel like it's happening now and it continues to hijack the future. Our traumas feel as if we are living in them now, and that is called implicit memory. And the good news is that there is a way out. We do not have to see through that distorted lens of trauma anymore. We have to stop asking ourselves what's wrong with us and start asking what happened to us. When we see someone struggling, we wouldn't say, oh, what's wrong with them? But we probably do, right? But what if we said, what happened to them? What did they go through? Think about that. Of all the people that you can look back on, the people that have hurt you even, what if you could think about what happened to them to make them be this way? You might you might actually find that through that lens, through that differentiating lens of what did my dad or mom go through? What did their families go through? What if we could say that instead? And you'll find that the people around you will be able to go through life with a lot more compassion, a lot more love and care. We need to be there for other people, and we have to stop asking what's wrong with them and start asking what happened to them. And one thing that I love talking to people about is they always ask me, like, what am I going to experience? And what about this and that? And same with plant medicines that I work with. There is no one like you. There's no one like you. You could have a brother or sister or a coworker or somebody that literally went through the exact same experience. Exact. You were there through the whole thing. But because of who you are, epigenetically, biologically, personality-wise, all of the things, all of the programming since your little baby birth, you are a unique person. No one is like you on the entire earth. So beyond any medicine that you can take, any therapy or any meditation, are you really doing the work to heal? And many ask, what am I going to go through? And that's not really the point. I have no idea what people go through. But I'm here to hold space and to keep you feeling safe. I'm trained in bodywork, integration, processing to help you understand what issues are there and what we can do about it. All right, so here's where the rubber meets the road, as Brian would say. These are the key points of the 9D experience. What is breathwork actually? And you kind of have to borrow from different sciences, right? We know binaural brain experiences or binaural entrainment is very well studied, right? We know solfeggio frequencies. Frequencies in general are hotly being studied right now. That might be the future of medicine itself. We know that 432 hertz harmonic tuning is better than 440, which is how our popular songs are usually recorded. It's a specialized tuning that matches the frequency of the earth. Isochronic brain tones, we know that these brainwave tones have been utilized in all types of modalities, from cancer to brain injuries, all sorts of things. I used this in sound therapy when I had my traumatic brain injury, isochronic and binaurals, and it was fantastic. The vibrations that happened, because they were specially tuned, helped me heal. Now we take into that somatic breath work. So you're breathing in a pattern that works in the program that's at hand. We use subliminal hypnotic therapy. Now, this is based on neurolinguistic programming, which I have gone through certification as well. And NLP certification really just means that we're looking for the right words to help with suggestion around visualization and things like that. And so we're not there hypnotizing you, but it's more like having cheerleaders behind you and encouraging you and kind of setting things in stone, taking this old belief and partnering it with a new belief. You'll have guided vocal coaching throughout, whether it's my voice, Brian's voice, maybe mixed voice with our Breathwork kids, and bioacoustic sound effects. So not only will you have sound effects like eggs cracking or engines starting, but you also notice that it is a multi-dimension sound experience. So back to the beginning, 9D, multi-dimensional sound. The sound is moving around you. And this is a very incredible process because it allows us to just start slowing things down. As you go through the breath work, it slows down the brain waves and the monkey mind and the chaos and the residue and so much of where our attention lives, and brings us down into our body, into the natural healing intelligence of our body. And this triggers catharsis, which we talked about earlier, and it triggers that healing, that real, actual healing. And as these releases happen, the brain and body begins to reprogram the RAS system, the reticulating activating system, reticular activating system. So we don't remove the traumas or the issues of the memories, we change our belief around them. So reprogramming your belief center to understand why, what, how, replace it with love, replace and change the belief with something new. Now we have a full digital library of 9D breathwork journeys. They're added every single month. So we have journeys around trauma, letting go, grief, forgiveness, fear, anxiety, inner child work, societal conditioning, and lots more coming. We have so many things in our catalog that can be perfect for you. And you work with your 9D practitioner, your verified practitioner, and they will help you figure out what program would work for you. They're all very, very different. They all have different breathing patterns. I encourage you to experience all of them. They may not resonate with you, but I promise when you go in and you start breathing, something will. It's a beautiful, beautiful experience. So that concludes our workshop part. I encourage you to do some breath work at home. All of you will be getting a sample pack of our cinematic trailer with our 5-minute breath, a 5-minute relaxation, and a 12-minute, what we call getting great, as well as a video on how to breathe, where to breathe, what to do, and our entire catalog. I've also included the link to the study that I was talking about earlier with maps. So that'll be included in your to-go bag, as well as a special discount for a session with me. So let's get to the journey. If you haven't already, grab your headphones. We need to set up your space. One of the things while we set up our space is that we know that there are several contradictions. And if you have severe cardiovascular issues or respiratory issues, we definitely need to talk about that first. I don't want you to go in and doing a breathing pattern if you have uncontrolled high blood pressure, if you've come out of maybe massive heart surgery or some sort of cardiovascular event. If you're pregnant and you can stay in a modified breath, which I'll show you, there's nobody on here pregnant, so I don't have to show you. There is a modification. Now, if you are in your later trimesters, we just encourage you not to do any breath holds, any screams, any really hard patterned breath work. This can trigger catharsis, which can also trigger contractions. If you've had any recent major surgery, if you're on any heavy duty medications, this would be an antipsychotic, benzo, muscle relaxers, things like that. If you have a history of aneurysms or seizures, there is a lot of visualization that goes on, a lot of brain power that's happening. So please come to me and talk to me about if you've had a history. Now, if you've had just one seizure, that would be different. It was out of childhood, but we still want to be careful, right? If you have asthma, we want to make sure that you've taken the precautions. You have your inhaler by you. You are being controlled with a medication of some sort. We just want to make sure that you're safe. Now, all of the people that work with me, whether it's in a public breathwork session, private or virtual, you will be required to sign a waiver, an NDA, and an intake form where we ask all of these questions. If you have extreme depression or suicidal thoughts, go ahead and exit now. I would like to talk with you privately, and exit as anytime you would like, so that you don't have to feel in any way shame. But I really would encourage you to only work with me privately. We want to make sure that you are in a good space to manage the feelings that are about to come. And then if you have type 1 diabetes, catharsis can sometimes trigger issues. And so if you are struggling with that, let's go ahead and talk too. All right. I want you to know that this is not always a super comfortable experience. Part of the healing journey is stepping outside of your comfort zone and going into where the magic happens. And I've worked with a lot of people where they literally want to quit after 10 minutes. And guess what? I won't let you. I will not let you quit. I will keep you in it. And we just modify our breath because you're the master. You get to be in control of this whole experience. So if it is becoming too much for you and your body's vibrating and you're feeling outside of yourself, just slow it down. Slow it down. Take nice nasal breaths. Let your experience go wherever you need it to go. If you're not ready for that level of release, it's okay. You can come back to it. That's the beauty of it. You are safe. The worst that'll happen is you'll pass out and your body will just take back over. It'll know what to do. I've only seen that one time ever. And she actually was floating off in space. She loved it. So we don't even know. We're not even sure if it was like considered a pass out moment. But there, you are safe. This is a very generally safe breathwork exercise. Of all the things that you could possibly do, this is probably the safest thing. All right, self-modulation, find your flow. If the breather is breathing too fast and you can't take deep enough breaths, then find your own flow. Don't listen. You do not have to follow what the breather's doing or what I'm doing or what anyone else is doing. Everyone will be on mute for this experience, but I just want you to know that your flow is your flow. If you can take really deep breaths and get the same experience in a slower method than on the precipice of hyperventilation, then that's what you should do. This will be a mental, physical, and emotional experience. For those of you that have followed me a long enough time, that I use these padded special cup masks that will literally soak your tears up. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel. It's okay to thrash and scream and yell and sob and laugh. It's okay to do all of those things. And yes, all of those things are normal. If your body's buzzing, that's normal. If you feel pain, that's normal. If you feel outside of your body, that's normal. If you don't, that's normal. If you see visions, that's normal. If you only feel, that's normal. All of the things that you are going to go through are indicative of your unique journey. All of it's safe. All of it's what you need. And I will be here right afterwards to talk you through everything and also give you some integration tools for after. So as you can see here, there is moments in physical that people have what we call tetany, lobster claws or T-Rex arms, and the body really does have this moment of where your hands tighten and tense, and sometimes they have pain. This is a really good indicator that you are a little bit low in electrolytes. So make sure you've got tons of electrolytes that you drink before and after, that you're on magnesium. Most people are deficient in magnesium. But physically, your body will be doing some things. And so all of it is normal. But yes, your hands might tighten and tingle a little bit. We're not doing any big releases in this session, but you will be feeling something. And it's safe. Just stick with it. Let it pass through. Don't try to jump up and run away from it. Let it happen. And let the emotions rise to the surface too. You can feel things. I encourage you to feel them. No judgment. All right, we went through the technique of circular breath. You guys all feel comfortable with it. So once we jump off, I'll go ahead and check everybody's breath so we can make sure that all of you are breathing nice deep into your diaphragm, into your back, into the chest, and releasing. I'm very excited for you to have this experience. When we go through the journey, I can't wait to hear about what your arc looks like. Everyone's is different. Every time I go into the same program over and over, it's a different experience. So I encourage you to let it be, let it go, let yourself transform your trauma, your programming, your limiting beliefs, anything that's holding you back, and you just enjoy the journey. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my recording for now. Again, my name is Marlise Ledbetter out of Houston, Texas. I'm a 9D verified facilitator, breath master, functional therapy specialist, and plant medicine expert. And I can be reached at marliseledbetter.com. That's MarliseLedbetter.com. And I own Ledbetter Consulting. Please visit my website, click on Breathwork. You can find our sample there. And remember always that you need a pair of headphones, close your eyes, and experience the magic of breathwork. Talk to you soon.